Again, good evening. Since we are talking about mindfulness, let me start with saying Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. We have received a topic to discuss. The topic that I have received is, just give me a second, another member has come. Yeah, yes, we move. Pathways to Nibbana. So it's a huge topic. We can discuss that for years, and of course it will be going on some time. And when I take this topic, this is a topic that the Blessed One has straight away addressed. And that has been addressed in the discourse called Four Foundations of Mindfulness. In that discourse, the Blessed One says, in Pali, Ekaino ayam bhikkhave maggo, sattanam visuddhiya, soka parideva samatikkamaya, dukkha domana satkamaya, nyaya sadigamaya, nibbanasa satchakiriyaya. So our topic is pathways to Nibbana. I would like to just amend it a bit, saying pathway to Nibbana. So that is exactly what this particular phrase is talking about. Ekaino ayam bhikkhave maggo. Ekaino ayam bhikkhave maggo means there are many translation to this. Some says direct path, some says the only path, some says one-way path, some says one and only way. So whatever it is, whatever the translation we have, it is what the Blessed One says is that it is the way for five things. Sattanam visuddhya, soka parideva samatikkamaya, dukkha domana sattakkamaya, nyaya sadigamaya, nibbanasa satchakiriyaya. So we are talking about Nibbana. Nibbana means, in simple sense, without going into big details and jargons, in simple sense, the ultimate happiness, right? So pathway to ultimate happiness, Blessed One says there is only one way. And then he says, Katame Chattaro, he says, the only way is four foundations of mindfulness, right? So before talking about four foundations of mindfulness, what we really lack is what mindfulness is. When we talk about mindfulness, when we Google about mindfulness, there are billions of apps, billions of websites coming up. In all these things, either they will be talking about Vipassana, or they will be talking about breathing practice, and a lot of things are there, but very few websites or informations are there explaining what actually mindfulness is, right? Even in the discourses, there are very few discourses which explain what mindfulness is. And in the discourses, the one word which is used to explain mindfulness is smruti, right? Smruti has been translated as memorizing or keeping in mind, right? So its real meaning is, rather than keeping in mind or memorizing, the actual meaning is the knowledge, the knowing, being aware, right? So the basic, simple meaning to start with what mindfulness is, being aware. Then the question arises, being aware of what? Being aware of where? Being aware of when? And a lot of all these W's will come into the picture, right? And in the four foundations of mindfulness, it is giving, you have got to be mindful of, it is explaining that you have got to be mindful of the body, mindful of sensations, mindful of be mindful of the mind, and then the phenomena. Right? So in other words, it is covering the whole spectrum of a living being. Right? So that is why the Blessed One at the very outset, he says, Ekayana ambikave maggo sattanang visuddhya. Sattanang visuddhya means the living beings, right? So when we will have to be mindful, we will be mindful of the being, right? Not other beings, not human beings, but yourself, right? So therefore, the mindfulness means being aware of yourself, not of your spouse, not of your partner, not of your parents, not of your siblings, not of your colleagues or the bosses, subordinates, whatever, not others, only of yourself. And even when you take yourself, and you will have to understand, who am I? What is yourself? Whenever we introduce ourselves to someone, we will introduce ourselves with a name or with a profession or with a title or where I live, or some other thing will be added to explain yourself. Without that, if we have a generic definition of yourself or who am I, generic definitions or the technical definition that we have is to understand any living being is the name and form, right? But if we go, if you generalize that a bit, for ordinary layman to understand, name and form means the body and the mind. Or to be more specific, rather than saying body and mind, because it gives some permanent notion into the explanation, a living being or animal or I am can be understood as a physical process, not just the body, a physical process. That is what is happening. It's a process that is taking place all the time, right? And on the other hand, for this physical process, there is another process which we call mental process being involved. And not only that, these two are interconnected. So these are the three components for you to understand what, if it is grammatical, what I am, right? So although there are three components in understanding a person, in understanding an animal, in understanding any living being, most of the time our attention is only to one section of these three, which is the physical process. We have no clue, we have no idea what the mental process is and what it does and how it is being controlled, let alone the interconnection between the two. Right? So I am saying that is, when you take the things that you do from morning to the time you go to the bed, most of the things, except forum like this or some practices that you do, especially the people here do some practice and they consider about the mind, but majority of the people, 99.9% of the people, we consider only the body, right? And we absolutely have no understanding whether there is a mind or what it does. We don't know, right? So therefore, there is a disconnection of myself. We are not together. We are far apart. Body is here, but the mind is not with us because we have not given due consideration, because due consideration has not been given. It has been contaminated. It has been neglected, and a lot of taints in our mind. Our mind, therefore, does not stay with the body, and it is working. It is having its own agenda, running all over the universe, running all over the time span. Right? So therefore, To connect these two components together, Blessed One says, you will have to be aware of yourself and bring the mind component, which is contaminated, which is running like a wild monkey all over the universe, bring it to your body, right? So therefore, the mindfulness means awareness of yourself here and now, because our mind or body is here, but the mind is not here. Mind is somewhere else. And the mind is not in the present moment. Mind is in the past or in the future. We will be thinking about what would be done in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 25 years, right? Or we will be thinking about what has happened in the past and how those can be corrected. I'm not saying these are good or bad, but what I'm trying to tell is most of the time we don't live with our body. We will be keeping our attention, we will be keeping our mind from avoiding this moment. All the time we try to avoid this present moment. And that is the time span in which we live in. If you take the space span, even there, we will be, the body is here, but the mind will be with our parents or with our children or with our siblings or with office mates, or maybe in the moon or in the sun or in another galaxy sometimes, right? So our mind is not here, right? So to do that, to bring the mind, which is wandering around the universe, to the present moment, the Blessed One says, be aware of yourself right here, right now. So from all what I said, if I take a simple definition of mindfulness, awareness that I am here and now is mindfulness. That's all what I want to say as the simple definition of mindfulness. So with that definition, if we want to bring our mind to here and now, then we have to start from some point. Because we know, as I said, I don't know where my mind is, but I exactly know where my body is. There is no question about that. My body is here. My body is in the present moment. It is now. So therefore, we have to understand exactly what you mean by here, right? So if I'm sitting in a room, right? So I may say, so far as I am concerned, here is this particular room in which I'm sitting. That is a bit too broad for explanation to understand here. Here actually means for any living being, as the Blessed One expects, here is the contact that you have to the Mother Nature in a particular point in time, right? So if you are sitting, your bottom or the legs will be on the floor or on the cushion or on the chair, and legs may be on the floor, and there are some contacts to the earth, and that contact covered with your skin up from the tip of the toes to the top of the head, that area is here for you. Anything else is outside, not here for you. So when you bring your mind, bringing the mind here means you will have to bring the mind that way to the body and narrow down here to that particular area. And when you understand now, it is even difficult. Now is something that keeps changing all the time, which does not wait for you. So you will have to be very alert, very focused, very attentive to whatever is happening here. Then only you will be able to come to now, right? So you won't be able to do it straight away. And since we have not had any experience in the past, it may feel like something impossible, right? But there are ways we can quietly improve ourselves. To do this, to bring the awareness to here and now, we will be starting from where we are. We are living in the body, as I said earlier. So therefore, we will start with our body. Although mind is important, although we will have to bring the mind to the body, we don't give any weight to the mind. We will start with the body because we are trying to understand the mind. We are trying to bring the mind to the body. So if we don't know the mind, we can't do that. To get to the mind, we will have to start from where we are. It is like someone, if I'm in Brisbane and if I go to somewhere, say to Sydney, someone will have to explain me how I will go from where I am. So therefore, in the same way, for you to get to the mind, you'll have to start from where you are. So you are with the body. So we start with the body. So when we try to be mindful with our body, that is what is mentioned in the 4 foundations of mindfulness discourse. Before doing anything else, the Blessed One says, Ujung kayang panidaya parimukang satim upattapetva. Keep the body upright and have the mindfulness to the forefront. Mindfulness to the fore. Keep the mindfulness in the driving seat. That's the message from the Buddha, right? So having the body, upright body as your focal point, right? So therefore, to bring the mind to the body, we, although it is mentioned that it is, you will have to take it to the upright body, for practical purposes, we divide the body into 2, right? We bring our attention to the upper part of the body separately, which we call sitting mindfulness. And then we bring the mindfulness to the lower part of the body, which we call walking mindfulness. The reason why we have 2 mindfulness practices to bring the mind to the body, there are many reasons. The main reason is we are coming into mindful practice. We are trying to bring our mind to the body after doing a lot of other things in the society or in our day-to-day life. Right? So therefore, if you straight away to be mindful, come and sit somewhere and start being quiet and being aware of yourself, it is a bit difficult. It's like braking a fast-moving car or straight away, all of a sudden, without any preparation for it, putting it to a lower gear. You straight away brake, then it might skid, right? So therefore, that's one reason I'm giving. There are many other reasons. Therefore, as a preparation for the intense practice of setting mindfulness, we use walking mindfulness. And in walking mindfulness, what we do is we don't brake all of a sudden, but we put into a lower gear and then go at a slow pace, right? There, what you do is you try to have a not fully controlled environment, but semi-controlled environment. In a semi-controlled environment, you try to bring your mind to the lower part of the body, right? So we will see how we can do that. That is the first thing that you do in your practice. How we will do is, for the walking mindfulness, we will select a path, right? Normally, that path should be having we should be having space for about 30 to 35 steps, right? And it is ideal if that path is flat, and it is ideal if that path is either gravel or sand or open nature, right? And it is ideal if you walk barefooted so that you will have direct contact with the nature, right? So these are the ideal conditions. But in a country like this, we may not have ideal conditions depending on the seasons, right? And we may not have the required space as well. So if you don't have the ideal conditions, we will have to live with whatever conditions that we may have, right? So once you have selected the path, what you do is you go to the start or the beginning of that path, and then stand at the beginning. And when you stand, you stand up in a relaxed manner, holding your hands by the side, or you can fold your hands in front, or you can fold your hands at the back. And then you can keep your eyes cast down about 1 meter ahead of you, right? And after doing that, you try to feel very well that you are standing. How you feel well that you are standing is you take your attention to the sole of the foot. Taking the attention to the sole of the foot means not that you look at your leg. Your eyes cast down about 1 meter ahead of you. You try to feel the sole of the foot. You try to see, understand what the sole of the foot has got to tell you instead of you looking at the leg, right? So it will have a lot of messages to you, right? So that way, you try to understand the fact that you are standing, right? So once you feel that you are standing, then you start in the path that you have selected, up and down, few laps, in that particular posture you have selected. The posture I mean here is holding your hands by the side, or folded in front, or folded at the back. Why I'm saying talking too much about the hands is because we try not to move the hands, not to wave the hands, right? If we do that, our attention will go to the hands, which is upper part of the body. Our attention may not go to the lower part of the body. So since we have got to cover the whole body, we have got to the moving parts, lower part of the body, right? So therefore, you hold the hands that way and then keep walking up and down at your natural walking pace, just to see the path is fine. So it's right. So once you have taken few laps, and if you feel that you are comfortable with the path, then you start to bring the attention to the lower part of the body, walking process. When you bring the attention to the lower part of the body, the first thing that you do is you try to feel the sole of the foot when you place the leg, right? So when you walk, when you place the leg, you try to be mindful of the sole of the foot. When you try to be mindful of the sole of the foot, then you can see how the sole of the foot is touching the ground or touching the floor, and then what sensations you get, and there are a lot of other information that you will have. You gather all those information and keep the attention to the sole of the foot and keep walking. So after doing few rounds like that, and if you are happy that you feel something in the sole of the foot, right, then what you can do is you can try to feel the two legs separately. I'm not saying when you walk, you move both the legs together. You try to see whether there is any special characteristics in the placing of the right foot as opposed to the placing of the left foot. If that is done just to bring your attention more close to the body. Not that those characteristics are so important, but by looking into these distinct characteristics of the different of the two feet, you will get more close to the body, right? So after doing that practice for some time, you feel that you have, this is the right foot, and in the right foot I have these type of characteristics, and in the left foot I have these type of characteristics, then your mind is fairly with the right foot and the left foot. And after doing that, and if you are happy with that only, then what you can do is this attention to the right foot and the left foot can be further divided to bring your attention further into your walking process, right? So initially we started with the placing of the sole, and then we divided that into the right and the left. Now we are going to take one more step of the walking process. The other next step in the walking process is, for you to walk, you will have to lift the sole of the foot. Now you can see what you feel when you lift, right? You try to observe the information when you lift the leg from the floor, and then placing the sole of the foot on the floor. So now in the same walking process, you are taking your attention to two different things, one lifting and the other placing, right? And if you can gather information of what you feel when you lift and when you place, now your attention is much more into your walking process. Your attention is much more into your lower part of the body. Once again, I am saying these informations have no value. The value of the information is just to understand for the person who is listening to you that you are not reading it from a book. Those informations will tell me that you have actually done your work and you have actually seen what can be seen, right? So that is why we need information just to ensure that it is the actual experience, right? So we gather those informations while lifting what we feel, while placing what we feel. So if you are happy that you have some experience or you have some information gathered, then we can add one more part into this process, right? That is lifting and what happens while moving. The walking process as lifting, moving, and placing, right? Now you take your attention specifically not only to lifting, but you take your attention to moving as well, and then the placing, right? So when you take your attention in that manner to three steps in the walking, your attention will go further into your walking process, and it will not go. It has, if you actually do it properly, very ardently, then attention will not go anywhere, right? But it is easier said than that. When we try to bring our attention to the body, most of the time, the biggest complaint is that we have disturbances from the wandering thoughts, and the mind is generating a lot of other thoughts. So therefore, you can't bring the attention to, forget about lifting, moving, placing. You will not be able to bring your attention at all to the lower part of the body. Right? So we have a technique to overcome this difficulty. The technique is we label what we do. we, in our head, repeat what we are doing, right? So when you walk, you repeat saying walking, 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 walking. That is the starting point. And then when you observe the sole of the foot, then you can say once again walking, walking, and observe the sole of the foot. And then when you specifically see the right and the left, then you can say right, 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 right. When you place the leg, you specifically see the right foot. And similarly, left foot, when you move, left, 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 specifically observe the information that you get in the left foot, right? Similarly, when you lift, you can say lifting, 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 and observe the information. And when you place, you can say placing, placing, and observe the information. And when you come to the third stage, lifting, moving, placing, you can repeat it in your head so that your mind will not go to other things. We have given some job to the mind. The job that is given to the mind is to pay attention to what you are doing, right? But after repeating this for some time, you may get used to doing it without repeating in your head. That is the best. If you can do that without repeating in your head, and if you can simply be aware, if you can simply observe, that is the ideal situation. But because of our lack of experience, we may not be able to straight away do it. So therefore, as a stepping stone, we are using this labeling technique or noting technique of what we are doing, right? So that way we can avoid mind wandering away, right? And another disturbance that you will have is while walking, other than mind wandering away, there will have a lot of visual objects around. And also you may be disturbed by certain pains. You know, some people may have knee pain, neck pain, back pain, and all that. All those pains will come up, right? When those pains are there or other disturbances are there, don't worry about them. Don't chase them away. Just let them be there. You try to see whether you still can have your attention to the movement of the leg. Right? If you can have your attention to the movement of the leg, don't worry about the disturbance. But if the disturbance is overwhelming, if your attention cannot be taken to the leg at all, then you simply accept the disturbance, right? And while walking, if you have a mountain of thoughts and thoughts are flooding in your head, you cannot bring your attention at all to the legs. In that case, you accept that you are thinking. Why? Mindfulness means awareness of here, now, I am. Although you are walking, if your main function of I am is thinking, and that's the only thing you know, you accept that. You become aware of it, right? So therefore, if I'm repeating, if the disturbance is overwhelming only, you accept the disturbance and your attention is not with the walking at all, right? So that is about the walking. So before going on to how you do the sitting practice, can I ask whether there is any question in relation to walking? You can, if you want to talk, you can unmute your mic and talk, ask the question. Right. Yeah, you can ask even later. That's fine. So that is how we take our attention to the lower part of the body. So 50% of the body is covered now. Now the next 50%, upper part of the body. And taking the attention to the upper part of the body is a bit of an intense method of being mindful or practicing mindfulness. In this sitting practice, unlike in walking, you don't do anything. You don't do it outside. You go to a quiet place, right? And the ideal places that Blessed One has explained is Aranyagatova, Rukamulagatova, Sunyagaragatova, which means go to a forest or go to a foot of a tree or go to an empty hut. So we can have a quiet place in our residence, and then once the place is selected, you will have to, it is ideal if you can sit in the lotus posture, full lotus posture. That is the ideal sitting posture that is prescribed. But if you can't do that, you sit in any comfortable posture, maybe half lotus, or if it is very difficult, you can sit on a chair, right? So you sit in a comfortable manner in which you can sit for some time. And the most important thing is, when you sit down, you will have your spinal straight, and you should not lean onto anything. If you're sitting on a chair, you should not lean onto the backrest. Or if you sit close to a wall, you should not lean onto the wall. You will have to have the spinal free and erect. And at the same time, neck erect, right? And very relaxed body, right? So once you sit in a comfortable posture and have your spinal erect and the neck erect, it becomes like a prison. Naturally, your body tenses up, right? But as much as possible, you try to see whether it is relaxed. And you hold your hands on your lap, right hand on the left, and then gently shut our eyes. And then what I do is, usually when I practice, I guide you through the whole body, from the crown of the head to the tip of the toes, so that your attention will be taken to the body, right? So once the attention is taken to the body, then we try to bring our attention to the posture in which we are sitting and see whatever that is moving, or see whatever that is naturally happening within our body. There are many things that are naturally happening within our body when we don't do anything and when we bring our attention to the body. And of those, the most important thing is the breath, right? Whether we like it or not, the breath is happening, blood circulation is happening, and food digestion is happening, and a lot of other things are happening. But all these are dependent upon the breath, respiration, right? So our attention naturally goes to respiration for most of the people, right? Why it is naturally going to the respiration? One reason is, when we close our eyes, when we sleep, usually. That is our normal practice. But without sleeping, this person is now sitting and closing eyes. And our mind wants to ensure that we are not dead, right? So without our knowledge, it checks whether we are alive, right? So that we are alive will only be confirmed if we are breathing, right? So our attention naturally goes to the breath. So when the attention goes to the breath, some people will feel the breath. I'm talking about the natural breath, not that you intentionally breathe. It is happening whether we like it or not. So we have got nothing to do here. We'll have to simply be patient and look at our body as if a third person is looking, right? Without involvement in the breath, right? So when you try to observe that, some people may feel the breath in the abdomen. Some people may feel the breath in the chest. Some people may feel the breath at the entrance of the nostril. some people may feel the breath somewhere else. Because of the breath, a lot of things are happening in the body. So attention may go to some other place. Whatever the place doesn't matter. You pick the most prominent place for you and then have the attention there continuously. Don't move it. Just have the attention in that particular place. So for example, if you feel your, this is just an example only, your abdomen, you have your attention to the abdomen. Having the attention to the abdomen means you don't roll your eyes. Now eyes are closed. You don't roll your eyes to see the abdomen. You just feel the abdomen and see what happens to the abdomen when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Continuously, without slipping a single in-breath or out-breath, you continuously keep on observing each in-breath and each out-breath. So once you are familiar with in-breath and out-breath observation, then you can be a bit more closer and see whether there is anything specific in in-breath, whether there is anything specific in out-breath. I'm not giving examples. You will have to observe and tell. Then only it becomes your own experience. Otherwise, I can give examples, but then you may look for those things. Right. And once you are familiar that there is some distinct identification of the in-breath and out-breath, you can go a bit further, as we have done for walking. You can see how the in-breath starts. You can see how it develops. You can see how it gradually subsides. And then you can see what happens after that. So it's a process. As I said at the beginning, this is a physical process. Right? So you can drive your mind into this physical process. Right? So when you drive your mind into the physical process in that manner, your mind does not go anywhere, but it gets more and more close to your body. It becomes more in harmony with your body. Right? So in that manner, when we bring our attention to the lower part of the body and the upper part of the body, the mind will find its usual home. All this time it has been wandering in the jungles. Now it will find its home. Right? And again, as I said earlier, it is not easy. Mind will start wandering away. You will not see at least one breath. Mind will do its usual job of being the crazy monkey. Right? Once again, what we do is to train, to practice, to get used to this. What we will do is we can label it. When we breathe in, we can label, not while breathing in intentionally, when it is happening. For breathing, there is no intentional involvement necessary. Technically we can argue on that, but it is naturally happening. Right? For that natural phenomena that takes place, if your mind is not naturally coming in, when it is happening, you label in-breath, 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 in-breath in your head. When out-breath is happening, you label out-breath, out-breath, out-breath. Right? So in that manner, you tame your mind a bit to bring your attention to what is happening at the moment. So once the mind is there, then you stop labeling and observe it. And after some time it wanders again, you can once again label and bring the mind back. And that way, you can improve the ability of observation without labeling over a period of time. Right. So again, there will have disturbances. We will be having the same medicine for that as well. If the disturbances such as thoughts, or pain while sitting, the knee pain, back pain and all that, or any sounds that you may have, no visual objects now. If those disturbances are bothering you too much, then you will accept them. But if they don't bother you, you don't bother them. Most of the time what happens is we bother the trouble. We trouble the trouble. Don't trouble the trouble until it troubles you. If it troubles you, you accept it. Because mindfulness means awareness of here now. Right? That way, you keep on practicing or practicing how you bring the mind to the body. So that way we cover how you can bring our attention to the whole body. So that is my basic guideline or instruction to practice walking and sitting mindfulness, and very basic introduction of what mindfulness is. And do you have any question on what I have explained so far? If not, we can go for 10 minutes walk and 10 minutes sitting, and then we can start the discussion. So any questions on what I have been talking?
I'm Sarak here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sarak.
Yeah. At one stage you mentioned that having sat down for meditation, you might try to make a survey of the body from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, should that be done once or twice, or?
I'm usually doing in the session. Yeah. What I do is I guide you through.
Yeah.
So once you are aware how to do it, when you practice on your own, you can do it once. That is just a technique only, not compulsory. Right. Just a technique to bring the attention to the body.
Yeah.
So if you do it once, that is enough. But if you feel I need to do a bit more, then there is nothing wrong in doing that as well. Yeah. Any other question from anybody else? You will have to unmute the mic if you want to talk. Or if you can't unmute, you can use the raise hand function so that I can unmute it for you. Okay, so if there are no questions, we will go for 10 minutes walk and then come back for 10 minutes sitting at 7:20. Thank you. Okay, so we have had a bit of an instruction or basic guidelines for the newcomers and for the members of QSA who joined us today. So usually when we have the practice, what we do is straight away we will have half an hour of walking from next time onwards, half an hour of sitting, and then Q&A session and a talk. So today we can go either for Q&A and talk, or we can have Q&A session only, or we can have the talk only, whatever you like. And before we getting onto that, I will have to remind you why we do that. The reason why we do that is we are going from this known physical process to an unknown area called mental process. So when you do that, we will have a lot of new knowledges coming up in the form of observations that you make. And you may want to ensure that these are the right things. And you may have questions to ask. You may have some doubts. You may have um, certain viewpoints on certain things that are happening, right? So therefore, we have got to support the practice with one-way communication, which is the talk, and more effectively, two-way communication, which is the discussion. So that is the reason why for each and every session, we have this, we have allocated some time for Q&A and the talk. So having mentioned that, now I will request the audience to ask any questions or make any statements or comments that you have got to make to start the discussion. And if you don't wish to have the discussion, then I can start the talk. So over to you. I prefer having a discussion because there are quite a few new members. So you can use this opportunity to ask questions about basically the basic guidelines I have given. So if you want to talk, please unmute and then talk.
Uncle, I had a question that popped up a couple of weeks ago, and it was suggested that I put it to you. It's to do with walking practice, and I guess my practice has generally evolved from quite simple sort of left foot, right foot to more focusing on the sensations that you feel underfoot, the movements of the walking, and trying to focus on a lot of those things. But what I realized I was doing is losing the now element of here, now I am, because there's so much happening to process that you're thinking about the past of what's happened instead of just walking and experiencing walking. And I used the example of like you watch fireworks and someone standing there watching it, enjoying it, versus someone who's filming it in their camera on their phone. They're not immersing themselves in it the same way. So I guess I saw it like that. It's like, do you just accept that you're walking and just experience what you experience, or do you try to really make those observations knowing that you're not properly within the now for the whole time?
Okay. Good question. You brought up two nice similes. One is watching and enjoying the firework, and the other one is filming the firework. And which one are you?
I feel at the moment like I'm filming.
Yeah.
And I wondered if I should change that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. I have another question now. If you are filming, are you the camera or the cameraman?
That's a good question. Probably no. I'm inclined to say it feels like I'm the cameraman because I'm trying to make a conscious effort, as opposed to the camera, it just happens. You know, you press the button and it goes. Whereas for me, I'm consciously trying to do these things. Yeah.
No, it's a very good answer as well. This is exactly what happens, right? And the point now is something that never waits for us. It keeps moving so fast. When it keeps moving so fast, we move away from that, and we start seeing that there is nothing solid, nothing permanent, everything is going so fast, right? So there is nothing for us to hold on to, and you start experiencing that. Although you have experienced that, our mind is so crafty, and you brought it up very well, so crafty. Now you don't enjoy it. Now it is just being recorded. But mind is so crafty to tell you, don't let it just record. You become the camera, and you have some say, you try to involve it, and you try to do this and do that and bring your element to it. That is not what you do. That is what our mind does. And what you have done so well. And that is why you were able to come to this stage, bring those two similes, right? You trying to be a cameraman is also not a mistake. It is the human nature. Human nature, we have all this time being working as if we are the rulers of the world. That is why, that is how each and every human being is working and doing things. There is nobody else. I can do everything. We think in our minds that we are so powerful. And because of that habit of egoistic habit and holding on to ego, even when the experience is showing that there is nothing for you to hold on to, you try to somehow catch hold of one corner. Now, you have seen that seeing is in itself is a very good thing. And explaining that so clearly is also a very good evidence that you have been very mindful of whatever that has been happening. You have been intentionally involving in the natural process, but even that has been you observed. So you have been mindful even on that. So the mindfulness has not dropped away. Mindfulness is continuing, but what you started to be mindful has changed completely. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So long as the mindfulness is continuing. We are not holding on to an object. We are not holding on to anything. What we simply try to do is like a third umpire, which is the camera. You just try to record whatever is happening. So it has been recorded, and it has been observed. It has been explained very well. So far as I am concerned, although you put that as some sort of a correction that should be made, so far as I am concerned, there is no correction to be made because the mindfulness is continuing. From that, I don't mean to say that you should not, that you should allow this to continue. What I'm simply saying is mindfulness has been continuing. Now you know that you are involving as well. Next time, let it happen, but don't get involved. Did I give you an answer, Dean?
Yeah, it does. I guess with regards to not getting involved, are there any thoughts about how that can be achieved?
Yeah. How you can achieve that is knowing that you are getting involved. Now you have seen that. You got involved, and you noticed that, and you have reported it well. When I asked, that itself is the knowing of it. So next time when you do it, since we have discussed now, still you will get involved, but still you can be mindful of that. When you become more and more mindful of that, mind trying to involve in it, it becomes a bit shaky. It becomes a bit fearful. I mean, the mind involvement will reduce because now there is a policeman going behind it. There is a spy, right? So what you are doing is, right? So just See if it involves. If it involves, don't try to correct it. Just be aware. Just know how it is trying to make you involved. That knowing itself will correct everything. We have got nothing specifically to do as a technique as such. Only thing that we will have to do is continue the mindfulness, whatever that comes under our nose. Make sense?
It does. Thank you, Uncle.
My pleasure. Akira and Sanuliputta and yeah, you can ask it, Putta. You'll have to unmute, I think.
So when you have, like, when you see something that directly affects you, such as like an election or I don't know, like some sort of situation, how do you just like observe without having any like attachment to the actual event happening?
Right. Let me get a bit more clarified on what you said. Are you talking about walking mindfulness or sitting mindfulness or none of the two?
None of those two.
None of
Like
those
the third umpire thing that someone just mentioned before.
Yeah. So what you are asking is, I mentioned that you will have to observe just like a third umpire. And then can you rephrase the question from there?
Yeah, so when you're looking at a situation that directly affects you,
Yeah.
how do you remain observant and not have attachment to the actual situation?
Okay, good. Can you give me an example?
So if there's a like a situation with friends, maybe your friends like or leave you or something, how do you remain observant and not like be sad about it? Not necessarily be not sad about it, but yeah.
Friends are leaving and then you feel sad, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So why I ask an example was because the question is very general. I cannot tell you just be observant if someone is beating you, right? Run as fast as possible. Don't try to hit back, but just run and go away from the place. But you gave a good example. The example is when such a thing is happening, you feel sad. When you feel sad, and if you know that you are sad, that is mindfulness. In mindfulness, we are not trying to be too happy all the time. Yeah. We are just trying to be aware of what governs us in that particular point in time. Yeah. Now, in this case, you have brought a mental situation, a mental process where you feel sad, right? So if you feel sad, accept in your head that I am sad. Don't fight the sadness. Don't try to get rid of that. Then what happens is you start hating sadness. That is the worst thing. That is what we are doing all the time, right? We want to correct situations. We want to do it better. You want to do it more efficiently, which means we are hating the present thing, what we have, right? So therefore, like a third umpire, now the friend has left. I'm feeling sad. So if you are feeling sad, if we really love ourselves, you accept yourself. Yourself is sadness. So you accept sadness. When you accept sadness, it will do miracles. I have met people gone into this situation in very dire circumstances. They have told me, I just cannot bear it up. It is coming up so much. I told them, in your head, just keep constantly labeling the very same emotion that is coming. And then they have been able to come out of it. We are not trying to be mindful to get rid of these things or come out of those things. It will naturally happen. In mindfulness, what we simply try to do is accept ourselves.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we don't accept ourselves. And
Yeah.
if we have short hair, we cry that we have short hair. If we have curly hair, we cry that we don't have straight hair. Right? If we have a pimple, we cry, I have a pimple. Why accept the pimple? Then you love yourself. Right? Nobody else is hating us than ourselves. We hate ourselves so much.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, in mindfulness, what we do is we give 100% marks to ourselves. So we don't want anybody else to accept us. We accept ourselves. I accept myself. So when that mentality is built up, very easy to live in the society. And that should not be started with the mind, as you said. You will be able to do it much better if you develop this practice with the body, because we know the body well. So therefore, we will have to bring our mind as much as possible to the body. So with the body, then we can gradually go to the mind. Did it make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes if anyone is having a question. Since we have only 20 minutes, I don't want to start the talk because it will take a bit long time. So I prefer if the audience can bring some discussion points.
Uncle, I might say something.
Yeah.
So recently I did a 3-day retreat in Gold Coast. It was quite good. And I recommend if any newcomers in Brisbane, they'll do it again, to please try that, because that's quite a good introduction. So I had some observations or comments. It was only a short period of time, 3 days. So I guess it's like a settling period when you go to do a retreat. So generally you get involved with a lot of pain. Well, that's what happens with me. I guess my observation or my comment is, so you have the pain and then you have the pleasure, or the feelings of pain and pleasure, and they're complete opposites of each other, or, very far apart. That's what you think. But what I actually observed in that retreat is I'd have like a leg pain or something, and straight away, without any gap, it could change to pleasure, and vice versa. I could have pleasure and straight away change to pain, no gap, or maybe I can't observe the gap. I guess that's my comment.
Yeah, I think the answer is in the last sentence you made. Whether I could observe it or not is the answer, because it is true that absence of pleasure is pain, absence of pain is pleasure, but it does not, just like the flip of a coin, does not change. It gradually subsides, right? So if we have continuous mindfulness, then what happens is pain will be gradually reducing, and then it will come to a situation where there is no pain, no pleasure. After that only, we will start observing the pleasure, right? And what you said is right, though. Our mind is having the habit of going into the poles. It will be either in the North Pole or the South Pole, either in the pain or the pleasure. It does not want to be in the middle. If it is in the middle, where there is no pain, no pleasure, there is no drama. There is no vivid action happening. There are no multivarious things. There is nothing to cling on to, or there is nothing to fight with. So therefore, what you're saying is right. This is what our mind is doing. Now, since you have seen this, pain is turning to pleasure, pleasure is turning to pain. Now you have that sharpness, you have that skill to take it bit more closer and bit more gradually and see the evolution of the pleasure to pain and evolution of the pain to pleasure. So if you can get more and more closer and have more and more space in your mindfulness, then you can see there every time before pain is turning into pleasure, it will come to that middle point where there is no pain, no pleasure. It's like in a graph. When negative goes to positives, it should go through zero. But we think zero has no value because it does not have any drama. We don't want to stay in zero. We want to stay in either negative negative or positive negative or negative positive or positive positive. Not in the middle. Middle is boring. So therefore mind is very crafty to move from one to the other. But it's very good to observe that and tell that experience. When you tell that experience, your mind is exposed. When the mind is exposed, it becomes weaker. Next time, you will be able to gradually keep mindfulness to see and observe that middle point. And observing the middle point is another story. So you observe that and tell me what happens.
Thank you, Uncle.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else?
I might ask something again, Uncle, actually. So during that retreat, I didn't have like a time to do any reporting. So I was sort of having a think about how I would report my experience. And I guess I was thinking about Venerable Dhammajiva, and he would probably ask me, well, this is what appearing in my head. He'd ask me, how do I know I'm walking? How do I know I'm sitting? And the last part would be, he'd probably ask, well, this is what's appearing in my head, that how do I know that I'm not dead when I'm walking or sitting? So for some reason, I was thinking about this during the retreat. So I wanted to find proof that I wasn't dead while I was walking or sitting. So I had a look, and I don't have like I can't feel the physical points of contact when walking and sitting. So this is why I was looking for why I was not dead. But I don't have physical proof that I'm not walking or sitting. So I was trying to see if I was not dead. So I have a look, and what I can feel is like I have a baseline of my existence to say that I'm not dead, that I'm alive. But when I try to see like, how do I explain this to someone else? I actually can't. Like I know it's there and it's like a feeling, but when I try to put it into words, I can't. I guess that's my comment.
Yeah, no, that's again another good comment, and it is much more compatible with the previous comment as well. That story that you mentioned and what you have done is again the shrewdness of the mind, right? So your previous comment was you saw the pain and pleasure situation and you have observed something there, right? So talking about pain and pleasure means that you are not talking about your physicality now, right? You have moved away from physicality. You have now tapped the door of the mind, right? So that is why you are talking about pain and the pleasure. Door of the mind means pleasant and unpleasantness, liking and disliking, right? So that you're not talking about what is happening to breath. You are not talking about what is happening to leg and all that. That process is gone through. And now when you tap the door of the mind, what happens is it will get opened. Once the mind door is open, right, you will go inside the house of the mind, right? So when you go in there, you have all thoughts, right? So it has given these thoughts. What are the thoughts it has given? It is not telling you now go and dance in the next party or go to that birthday or listen to this song or go to that movie or play this video game or talk about a girlfriend and things like that. Is not what the mind is telling you now, because you're practicing, you're in a retreat. Now it is giving you all sorts of nonsense googlies about the practice itself. All those are just trying to divert your attention from the normal process. What is the normal process? Being mindful of what is happening, which is thinking, right? So when those things happen, however spiritual they may be, doesn't matter. Simply thinking. So when that happens, if you can observe them as thoughts, their value will drop to zero. But we can't do that all of a sudden. We can't do that straight away. When you go in this journey, these type of things will happen. And they will appear as very, very important, very knowledgeable, very wisdom points. But all what they do is playing with our mindfulness, trying to move us away from here and now. Right? What is happening here and now? Thinking. Don't worry about the clarity of it. Just observe them as thoughts. Just observe them as thoughts. So, and it has been so crafty for you to direct your attention to something that Bhante might ask. And you have actually been involved in it as well. Those things happen for not only to you, for everyone. Happening them is, and observing them is, and reporting them are the most important things. They happen, you observe them and report them, which shows that you have you have progressed in the path. When you progress, only those things will happen. Otherwise, you will cook and eat and sleep. That's all. But since you are progressing in the path, these things happen. And you see them. Not only just happen, you see them as well. And you see it so clearly that you can tell someone as well. So it's a progress. It's nothing to worry about it. But next time, just observe. Make sense?
Thank you very much, Uncle.
My pleasure. 10 more minutes if anyone is having any question. Sarath and Yasanga want to say anything? Or any comment? Will it unmute possibly?
Okay.
Yeah, no, we can hear.
Yeah. Well, I know that mindfulness is the key matter that we are concerned about. But sometimes I feel that we need to go further to deal with what the mind is trying to do. So I keep wondering whether we just stop at the level of mindfulness or go further.
Yeah, is there a question?
Yes, in a way.
Yeah. No, what you're saying is right. Mindfulness, I would say mindfulness is not the key as well.
Yeah.
Because mindfulness existed even before the Blessed One. It was something that has been there. The only thing that the Blessed One did was he gave a technique to take it further, as you said. And the technique or the expression he has made was parimukang sating. Parimukang sating means keeping the mindfulness to the fore. Keep the mindfulness in front. Keep the mindfulness in the driving seat. Right? So that is the practice that we have got to bring into. And for that only, we will have to start with the body. And then we don't do anything. Everything else will evolve. That evolution, you will not know. The only thing you will have to do is you will have to tell your practice. When you tell your practice, the character will come out and the defilements will come out, all pains will come out. And as you know, some of the participants were mentioning, they will put that as a complaint, they will put that as a comment, they will put that as an experience. And that can be used to explain how the mind has been playing with us. And that way, we can support the evolution process of the mind. And not that we do anything with the mind as such. We, as much as possible, what we try to do is we try to not to give value to the mind as such. Now we think mind is such a big thing and we are going to do that, we are going to do this. No. We simply ignore all that, just observe. It's a process of not doing anything. If we try to do something, then we move away from mindfulness. We do something not to do anything. Yes, so you are right. It's not just the mindfulness, it should go further. And then only it will evolve into the other stages of spirituality. So for that, practice is important and observations are important.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 5 more minutes if anyone is having any question. you have a question, you can just unmute and talk or raise hand.
Hello, Amarnath. This is Yasanga.
Yes, and how are you?
Hi, sorry I joined a bit late. So that comment you made about just letting let things evolve by observing. Is that itself initially, is it useful to do that as an active activity, if you like, in the sense that you're just constantly, it's almost like a polling system. You're polling the mind to see what's coming in next, what's coming in next, what's coming in next, simply because when you're first doing this, if you simply have the goal of just observing, at some stage you're going to get trapped in the thoughts and you're going to get carried away by those thoughts.
Yeah.
So do you feel it is useful, or is that part of the teaching when you start to actively try to create that that mindfulness, if you like, or should you let it happen very naturally, even if you get trapped in your thoughts to some extent, and then you bring yourself back?
Yeah. In that comment, I will let it just replace one word with another word, and other than that, the entire comment is correct. The word I will have to replace is the mind with the word body, right? So you just let whatever is happening naturally happen naturally, especially so far as the sitting process is concerned, and you actively observe. And in walking, you actively walk and actively observe. And why we have two intentions in walking is because when you come to the practice, we come from billions of intentions world. When we live in the society, we are all full of intentional activities. So when you come from this ocean of intentions and straight away come and stop all intentions, it becomes, sudden break and you will skid and have an accident. For us to avoid that, we have a semi-controlled environment with the walking. And there what we do is one intentional activity and intentional observation. Right. So once that is done, and then once we are reasonably bringing our mind to the lower part of the body, then we stop all intentions and come and sit and see whatever naturally is happening within the body. And we don't observe the mind. Observing the mind is again another crafty idea of the mind. Right. So we don't know what sort of googlies our mind will put. Right. So what therefore we would do is our body will never ever lie. So we observe the body, bring the mind to the body and ask the mind, observe this. Right. So then mind will be in a real trouble because it has not done this ever in the existence. Right. So then our taints and our character, our defilements, everything will come out, and all what will come out is the dust that have been accumulated in our mind. So when those things are coming out, by bringing them out itself is a cleaning. That is how cleansing happens. Right. So it is, yes, to the short answer is yes, we do something actively. To start with. Once we do that, everything else will gradually start following. And we allow that to happen.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have come to the end of time. And still, if anyone is having any question, to take a few minutes. Good. So if there are no questions, we are meeting next on the 7th November, if I'm right. Yeah, 7th November, same time, 6:15, same Zoom ID. And the next meeting, if there is any newcomer, what we will do is usually we have a recorded instruction, and we will just play the recorded instructions for the newcomers. But since there was a group here, I didn't want to do that, so I did it myself. Hope I did something better than the recording, or I don't know whether the recording is better. Anyway, if there is any newcomer, we will play the recording, and what we usually do is we will have half an hour walk, half an hour sitting, and then talk, and then the Q&A. So with that reminder, I would like to thank everyone for participating, and good night, everybody.
Uncle, one question. Is that going to be a physical one, or is it going to be a Zoom one again?
Yeah, now for you guys can come here, 7. And others, those who are not coming here, can join via Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Uncle.
Thank you. Dean, want to ask something?
No, not me.
Right, okay. Okay, Therwan Sarnai, thank you.
Therwan Saranai.
Thank you.
Therwan
Therwan
Thank
Saranai.
you.
Therwan Saranai.
Therwan Sarnai.